All right, guys. It's time, it's time, it's time. Let me tell you a little bit about the woman you're going to see today. She grew up in Naples, Italy. Not Naples, Florida, Naples, Italy. Also lived for a while in Japan. That's about as culturally different as you can imagine, about like Euless and Naples, Florida, actually, now that I think about it. She's traveled all over the world. She was on the Food Network Star. You may remember her from season 10. She realized that food was her passion, and she stayed in the culinary field her entire adult life. Following Food Network Star, she received training at the Escoffier International School of Culinary Arts. She was the executive chef and owner, and is the executive chef and owner of Sweet Potato Baby over in Memphis, Tennessee. She has dynamic and flavorful food pairings. That's what she does, and you'll see that coming up right now. She's been in some of the top dining establishments in the world, and in just 2 years, Sweet Potato Baby has received the 2015 National Award from Sam's Club as America's Small Business Champion. Thumbtack's Best Company in Customer Service, named one of the top 10 companies to watch from the Greater Memphis Chamber of Commerce, and in 2015, she was named Best Chef in the new Tri-State Defender Best in Black Awards for Sweet Potato Baby. And she is just a really funny woman to listen to. And she's an outstanding chef. You're going to be entertained and full when this is over. Would you please welcome Chef Aryen Moore-Alston.
Hello. Hi, how's everybody? Well, I should start with 皆様こんにちは。私の名前は Aryen Moore-Alston と申します. That's just Japanese for, hi everybody, my name is Aryen. Nice to meet you. Like he said, I grew up in Naples, Italy. I've traveled the world. My father was a musician. My mother was a film actress. And I guess the stage is where I'm at home, but the kitchen is where I'm comfortable, if that makes any sense. So I'll start with the toast. Salute. Right? Rosé, champagne in a glass, that works, right? All right. So let's get started. The name of my company is Sweet Potato Baby. I made all of my daughter's baby food. And when she started eating solids, I was like, what am I going to do with all these frozen vegetables in the freezer? So I threw them into cupcakes. So my Sweet Potato Baby is our signature, followed by our red velvets made with beets, our yellow cakes made with butternut squash. It kept going. And then I opened a catering and baked goods company. And now I have a cafe in Memphis. So we're still trucking along. We had a wedding yesterday, and now I'm up here on stage cooking for you guys. All right, thank you. So I started by roasting sweet potatoes in an oven. Just lined it with some foil. And what we're gonna do is basically take our sweet potato pulp, the insides, and we're gonna process it in a food processor. You can do this in a blender. So what I like is, with the sweet potatoes, we want the caramelization. So I love to roast it because the natural sugars come out. You see that? Most people think you burnt it. That's the natural sugar. So you want that, you want to roast it. It's better than boiling it, actually. So we're gonna do about 2 cups of sweet potatoes. And then we're gonna start building this bad boy up. Have you guys ever had a sweet potato cupcake? No? All right, then you're in for a treat. This is gonna be really, really good. And since this is ZestFest, I've brought some of our peppers that we've created. I'm working with a farmer in Memphis to purposefully produce peppers. And we have a ghost pepper that we have processed down, roasted it up, and you guys are gonna have a little bit of kick in your sweet potato cupcake. So we're gonna process our sweet potato. And we want baby food status, right? So I always say processed food isn't just for babies. I'm gonna process our sweet potatoes. And once we get it to kind of this consistency of baby food, more like mush, you can add a little bit of water. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a little bit of milk, since it's all going into our cupcake batter anyway. I'm gonna process it some more. And that's pretty good. So now we have about 2 cups of processed sweet potatoes, and we're gonna come over to our stand mixer. I'm gonna put that in here. And to that, we are going to add some sugar, and in this case, some olive oil and some butter, or you can use vegetable oil. But we just need something to combine it. So we're gonna use some olive oil and some butter and some sugar. Here we are. Put this on real quick. Let's add our sugar. And this is roughly 2 cups of sugar that we're putting into our sweet potatoes. Now, one thing you can do is you can use applesauce instead of oil, or you can use bananas. But since we're already using sweet potatoes, we're gonna go ahead and use our olive oil with it and our butter. But like I said, you can use applesauce. It's the same thing, and it's healthier. So roughly 1 3/4 cups of oil, 2 cups of sugar, and 2 cups of sweet potatoes. And when you're baking and when you're using a stand mixer, it's concave this way, so you're gonna have to stop it occasionally. And what you like to do is scrape down your sides. I know they say this in recipes, but that's to make sure that all the ingredients get properly combined. So you wanna make sure you take the time to scrape it down. Does anybody bake? Yes. So what is the thing you like to bake the most? Whole cakes, pound cakes, right? Why do you think it's called a pound cake? Do you know? It's because it's a pound of butter, like a pound of sugar, right? A pound of all these ingredients, a pound of flour, that's a pound cake. Yeah. And you want to make sure when you cook a pound cake all the way through, sometimes you'll have that like buttery, it'll sink to the bottom. That means you need to make sure all of your ingredients are combined and that you cook it all the way through. All right, so we got that going. Now we're gonna add 3 eggs. And you wanna add them 1 at a time to make sure they're properly combined and fully incorporated. Here's our second egg. Hey, you. Did you guys like her macaroni and cheese? Was it good? Are you still eating it? So if you don't know, L'Oreal and I were on Food Network Star Season 10, and we became best buds, literally. Like, she came out, I was like, your name's L'Oreal, my name's Aryen, it's a match made in heaven, no one can say our names, it's perfect. So now that we have that, I'm gonna let this go on low, and I'm gonna come over here, and I know L'Oreal mentioned about whisking, right? So say you don't have your sifter with you. This is about 2 1/4 cups of flour. I'm whisking it up with my whisk, and to that, we're going to add a little bit of cinnamon. And if you're at home and you have a measuring spoon, you would do 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. Then this is our ghost pepper. I'm only gonna do 1/4 teaspoon so that we don't kill each other, right? And then of course, I like to cook with booze. I know we have some kids in the audience, but beer is actually a leavening agent. So some people make cupcakes and they can use baking soda, baking powder, all of those things, but you can also use beer. And then when you cook it, all the alcohol goes away. It's pretty good. And so here we have our baking powder. We're gonna add 3 teaspoons of baking powder. And then we're gonna add 2 teaspoons of baking soda. And like I said, scratch cooking is what I've done all my life. And then when I started my restaurant, I had to make sure all of the recipes were consistent all the time. So I had to write it down. And so, you know, consistency is key when you own an operation, but when you're at home and you're playing with your ingredients, you don't have to measure everything, right? Baking is a science though. So how is this looking? This looks good. Like I said, we're going to scrape down the sides and make sure everything is combined. And we are going to add our dry ingredients to our wet ingredients. And we're gonna start with our flour, then we're gonna add some beer, and then we're gonna add the flour again until everything is combined. This is really simple. This takes about 15 minutes if you have all your ingredients laid out for you. So I'll show you how to make the batter, we're gonna bake it up, and then I'm gonna show you how to make the icing for it. We'll start by adding our flour mixture. So like I said, we have some cinnamon, we have some ghost pepper, we have some baking soda, baking powder. We have all of these ingredients in here, and this is gonna be an amazing cupcake. So here's 1/2 cup of beer. We have our beer, we have our vanilla extract, and we have a little bit of Malibu coconut rum. So I'm gonna add 1/4 cup right now of our beer. I'm gonna add our vanilla extract. I'm sorry, that was our rum, and this is our vanilla. I like a little bit more color, so I think what I'd like to do is I'm gonna add some more cinnamon. And make sure which one's which. Yeah, cinnamon. There we go. We're almost there. So a lot of people don't know this. I started cooking when I was 7 years old. My father actually taught me how to cook. And then he passed away when I was 11. And I actually was asking him if I could go cook in our kitchen, and I found him in the living room. And since then, I guess my way of coping was to cook, and I started cooking for my family because my mother couldn't cook. So it was me, my mom, and my sister, and nobody to cook for us. So my title was chef since I was 11, and I've been cooking ever since. And that's my aunt right here. She came from DC. So, this is family, right? I think you cook for people that you love, and it's a way to showcase, that skill. And what do they say? A way to a man's heart is through their stomach. So that just shows you that if you want to show somebody that you love them, if you want to show somebody that you love them, you cook for them, right? So now I'm going to add the rest of our beer. And we're almost done. And then we're just going to dish it up. And while it bakes, I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful, luscious, I usually would do a cream cheese frosting, but since we're here, we're using the Old Windmill Dairy Farm. We're using their white chocolate and chèvre cheese. And that's going to be really good with the flavors of the sweet potato. And we're going to make a buttercream frosting. Has anyone ever taken like a Wilton cake decorating class, or you've seen these tiers of cakes and all of this and all these? So L'Oreal and I, our goal is to get on Cupcake Wars and like kick people's butt. So that's our next goal. We're going to go and tag team it. We have fun anyway, so it's a good thing. All right, this is the last bit. So we did flour, we did our dry ingredients, we did our wet ingredients, we did our dry ingredients, back and forth. But this is going to make a really, really beautiful cupcake. And what you don't want to do is overmix it. So I'm just going to scrape down the sides. And I think we are almost good. Let's do it again. I went to a church in Arkansas, and the pastor's sermon was about licking the bowl. And if you've ever been in the kitchen with your family and they're making icing or cupcakes, the one thing the kids are always saying, can I lick the bowl? Can I lick the spoon? And he had the sermon about like licking the bowl as a way of, sharing. You have to teach lessons. And he said his mom made him lick the bowl while it was still on. I don't know about that, but I'm like, what is that about? No. All right, so we are done. We're going to dish this up, and we're going to bake it. And one way to have a consistent scoop is to use like an ice cream scoop. This is, most people use it for ice cream, and you can make perfect cookies for this with the right size. And so all we're going to do is put it up here, scrape, and plop. And these rise really high, so you only need a little bit. And I like to scrape it because I like consistency. I'm going to scrape this up. It takes no time, right? I think this took like 15 minutes or less. Does anybody have any questions? Well, I have been running a culinary academy for high school students for the past 2 years in Memphis, Tennessee. And it's been an amazing experience because I get to see kids who, would otherwise not be chefs want to be like the next cake boss. And these are inner city kids who got into some trouble and they needed some help. And I said, let's cook. And we've been cooking for the Grizzlies and NBA players and all this fun stuff. And just last Monday, we cooked and fed over 300 people at a homeless shelter. So it's a way of giving back. Then they told us to fire their cook, and they wanted us to cook in the kitchen. So I said, no, we can't do that. All right. So let me see. If I can I'll do some more. I'm going to get started on this icing so that we can have these bake while we make the icing. Give me a second.